At 9:30 local time, a VLS cell blows open on the USS Spruance, and a Tomahawk cruise missile punches through its own exhaust cloud into the Persian Gulf sky. The booster kicks it clear, falls away, and a turbofan the size of a coffee table spools to life. The Tomahawk drops to 30 feet above the waterline and starts racing east toward the Iranian coastline at Mach 0.7. Then the next cell fires, then the next, then the next. Across the strike group, 3 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers are running the same drill. Within 2 minutes, dozens of missiles are gone, each one threading waypoints plotted the night before around every civilian vessel in the morning traffic schedule, buffered by at least 2,000 yards of open water. The largest American naval strike since the opening hours of Iraqi freedom has just kicked off. And Iran was about to find out what happens when you spend 40 years threatening to choke the world's oil supply, and somebody finally calls the bluff. Here's the thing, this wasn't a punitive strike, this wasn't a message. The mission was total: destroy Iran's surface fleet, erase the coastal drone stockpiles, and put every Kilo-class submarine on the bottom of Bandar Abbas harbor before a single one could slip its moorings. Iran had spent decades filling the coastline with fast attack boats, anti-ship batteries, and drone launchers, all pointed at a gap barely 21 miles wide. Today, every last piece of it was on the target list. 12 miles out, the lead Tomahawk crosses the Iranian coastline, and Turcom terrain contour matching finally has something to read. Like driving through fog and suddenly hitting a stretch of road you've memorized, at Bandar Abbas Naval Base, the Iranian frigate Sahan sat moored among a dozen other vessels. Radar consoles powering up, 4 minutes to weapons ready, maybe 3 if the crew skipped the self-test. Nobody on that pier knew what was already 30 feet above the water, closing at 550 miles per hour, with their name on it. They had about 25 minutes of peace left. 9:42 local time. 3 miles north of the burning Sahan, Iran's 755-foot floating drone carrier is already launching. The Shahid Bagheri, a converted cargo ship turned airborne nightmare factory, is shoving Shahid 136 kamikaze drones off the rails as fast as boosters can cycle. 3 drones gone. 3 more on deck with boosters armed. Every second that ship stays operational is another drone headed toward the American destroyer screen 30 miles offshore. 2 A-18E Super Hornets from VFA 1-4 Top Hatters are pushing north at 40,000 feet, each carrying an AGM-158C LRASM under the left wing. The LRASM weighs 2,500 pounds, cruises just under Mach 0.9, and carries a 1,000-pound warhead designed to punch through a hull and detonate inside. The pilot can launch it from over 200 miles away, meaning his jet is back on a tanker sipping gas before the Iranian crew even knows it's coming. But here's what makes this weapon genuinely scary. Imagine dropping a hunting dog into a pitch-black room and it finds the intruder without you making a sound. No whistle, no pointing, no commands. Unlike the Navy's aging Harpoon, the LRASM uses passive sensors and onboard AI to find its own target. No GPS, no data link, no hand-holding. Rifle, LRASM off the rail. From this moment, the weapon belongs to itself. A 2,500-pound hunting dog you can't whistle back. It descends to wave-top altitude, listening for everything, broadcasting nothing, picking up the emissions the Bagheri is already producing. Radar, radio, navigation, all betraying her position, like hunting someone through a dark house by the sound of their breathing. On the MQ 9 feet overhead, the Bagheri is still launching Shaheeds, rocketing off her deck, then the LRASM closes the final mile. The warhead punches through the forward deck and detonates inside the drone storage bay. The entire forward section whites out on thermal. The second LRASM catches the waterline amidships 30 seconds later. Single-hull tanker construction meeting a 1,000-pound warhead. Think about stepping on a soda can. 11 degrees of port list inside a minute. Iran's drone carrier will never launch again. Check on Bagheri. She's listing hard to port. Copy. Someone tell those Iranian Shaheeds their airport just closed. But those 6 drones she got off the deck before going under just became somebody else's problem. 10:03 local time. 200 miles east, at Konarak Naval Base, Iran's flagship is waking up. The Jamaran, the warship Tehran, paraded on state television for a decade. The ship Iran's generals pointed at and said that is why we are naval power, is powering her Fajr 2-7 surface-to-air system and spinning up search radars. On paper, she's Iran's straight-A student. In practice, she's never been in a real fight, and her first exam is already in the air. An FA-18E is pushing east at 38,000 feet carrying an AGM-84 SLAM ER. Here's the thing about the SLAM ER. The LRASM hunts on its own. The Tomahawk follows a pre-programmed route, but the SLAM ER, the pilot flies it in, manually. Think of it as performing surgery with a joystick from 35 miles away. The weapon's nose camera sends back a live infrared feed, and the pilot steers the missile onto the exact section of hull he wants to hit. Not just the ship, the compartment, the deck plate. Viper 1-1, weapon away. SLAM ER in the air, steering. On his screen, the Jamaran grows from a white thermal smudge into a fully resolved warship. She looked magnificent on Iranian state TV, Under infrared, she's just a heat signature with a name. The pilot nudges the crosshairs aft, past the bridge, past the missile launchers, and parks them directly over the engine compartment. Impact in 5, 4. The SLAM ER punches through the stern plating and detonates inside the engineering space. Secondary explosions ripple forward as fuel lines cook off. The Jamaran's keel fractures. Once the keel goes, a warship doesn't sink, it folds. Shack, Jamaran is broken. She's going down by the stern. Copy, Viper. Iran's flagship just got its insurance policy canceled. The ship Tehran spent a decade building settles into the mud of Konarak Harbor in under 4 minutes. But the pilot doesn't get to watch. His radar warning receiver is already screaming an Iranian coastal battery just went active. And it has his bearing. 10-7 local time. The battery isn't a fixed site. It's a Tor M1, a Russian-built SAM on tank treads that can relocate faster than you can parallel park. The Iranian crew has been hiding behind a ridge, waiting for exactly this moment, an American jet low and slow after a weapons release. A 9M331 missile comes off the rail, pulling 30 Gs, enough to black out any human being. The pilot brakes hard right, punches flares, pulls 7 Gs. His G-suit clamps down like a tourniquet. The world collapses to a gray tunnel. The 9M331 chases a flare for half a second before reacquiring. At Mach 2.5, half a second is 400 meters of lateral offset. The missile screams past close enough to rattle the canopy. Viper 1-1, defensive, SAM brake missile passed. That was close. Yeah, don't put that in the debrief. His wingman rolls in from 22,000 feet with a GBU, 3-1 JDAM 2,000 pounds on a 3-7-ton track vehicle, like swatting a wasp with a refrigerator. 4 seconds later, the Tor M1 is a crater. But while the SAM fight was happening, the logistics ship Machran was burning in the inner harbor fully ablaze, trailing a wall of petroleum smoke across every targeting pod in the overhead stack. Overlord, Machran is still floating. She's blacking out the entire basin. Copy, Viper. She'll burn out eventually. Eventually isn't on the schedule today, sir. On the FLIR feed, the harbor is now a wall of white, where 3 Iranian corvettes should be. And behind that smoke, the submarine pens are still intact. 10-12 local time. 2 options, neither one good. GPS guidance from altitude, but Iranian jamming has turned a few feet of accuracy into 30 feet in any direction. In war, 30 feet is the difference between sinking a corvette and splashing seawater. Or dive below the smoke and drop visual, but that puts him inside the envelope of every SA-24 IGLA the IRGC has down there. 1 guy, 1 tube, 1 rooftop. He pushes the nose over, 1 pilot, 6 bombs, and the entire Iranian coastline daring him to come down. At 5,000 feet, the petroleum smoke hits first. Not a smell, a taste. The pod shows nothing. Black wall. 4,000. Still blind. 3,200 a gust tears the smoke sideways, and the pod catches the Corvette Bayandor's stern. Gray steel close enough to read the hull number. Here's where it gets interesting. The Bayandor sits 30 meters from Iran's Kilo-class submarine, pens 3 diesel-electric boats the West calls black holes because once they're underwater, nobody finds them. If those kilos reach open water, the strait becomes a minefield. They cannot leave that pen. He pickles. 6 white flashes punch through the smoke. The corvettes, Zagros, Bayandor, and Nagbi take pairs 2 bombs each. The submarine pens get wiped out by Super Hornets coming in behind him. Iran's black holes never made it out of the garage. Overlord Viper, submarine pens are gone. 3 kilos confirmed destroyed at birth. Copy. So those black holes are at the bottom now? Affirmative. Good place for submarines, sir. But the eastern pier, the one that held Iran's IRGC fast attack boats, is empty. Every berth accounted for. Every boat gone. 10:24 local time. 24 Paykaap-II fast attack craft, basically angry cigarette boats with a NOR anti-ship missile strapped to the deck, have scattered into the Strait of Hormuz commercial shipping lanes, tucking behind supertankers, crossing from one radar shadow to the next. The IRGC spent 40 years building these boats for exactly this scenario. Today, they get to try it for real. An MH-60R Romeo finds the first cluster, 7 boats weaving between a VLCC and a Singaporean container ship. Here's the problem. You can't put a harpoon into a fast boat hugging a tanker full of liquefied natural gas. That's not a military decision, that's a global economic catastrophe. The Romeo pilot frames the boat through his FLIR turret fiberglass hull, no fishing nets, weapons rail on the bow, and puts a hellfire through the cockpit from 4 kilometers. The Paykaap goes from a hot white signature to a debris field in under 2 seconds. Stalker 2-1, Splash 1 Paykaap, 6 remaining in the cluster. Each engagement is like a knife fight in a phone booth, threading a missile between a gas tanker and a gunboat, while both are moving at 20 knots. A P-8 Poseidon joins from 20,000 feet, painting every boat in the strait. The open water runners get harpoons. The ones hiding behind civilian ships get gun runs, from two F/A-18s pushing down with M61A2 Vulcans 6,000 rounds per minute. Half a second on the trigger, and a Paykaap ceases to exist. So does a fishing trawler, which is why every trigger pull is a career-ending decision if it's wrong, like performing eye surgery with a chainsaw. Rifle 1-3, guns, 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 splash 1 Paykaap. Confirm hostile? Fiberglass hull, nor rail, no registration, hostile confirmed. By noon, 10 more boats are burning, sunk, or drifting empty. A dozen Paykaaps made the shallows around Abu Musa and Larak Island coves too tight for a harpoon. Rock walls that eat radar returns whole. But the U.S. Navy still has weapons with their names on them. By 12:30 local time, the E-2D Hawkeye painted the strait clean for the first time all morning. Sahand destroyed, Sabalan destroyed, Shahid Bagheri sinking. Jamaran broken on the bottom, 3 Kilo class submarines destroyed at Perth. Tor, M1 crater, 14 Paykaaps confirmed sunk, 6 more burning. Iran's Navy lost 80% of its offensive capability in under 3 hours. That's shorter than the line at the DMV. But here's the number that matters. The oil terminals at Karg Island stood untouched. The refineries at Bandar Abbas operational. The commercial shipping lanes open. Every tanker transiting the strait when the first Tomahawk launched was still transiting when the last Paykaap burned out. The U.S. Navy had dismantled an entire naval force without putting a single dent in the infrastructure the world actually needed. The strike package reformed west of the strait. The petroleum smoke from Konarak was still visible 60 miles out, a black column rising into an otherwise perfect Gulf sky. Ahead, the carrier deck waited. Behind them, silence. Then the strike lead keyed the mic one last time. Overlord Viper, Hormuz is open. Iran just found out the toll booth works both ways. If you enjoyed this video, watch our breakdown of how the U.S. Air Force opened Iranian airspace the night before this strike. Bye for now.